Hey everyone, Mac here, and we're going to talk about exponents, okay? And how we're going to multiply, divide, add, subtract, and how we deal with it. On this particular one, we're going to talk about how we multiply exponents, okay? So let's just give us some examples to start. First of all, whenever you have something that looks like this is going to say x. I'm going to go 3x to the third, okay? So when you take a look at this, x is considered the base, and 3 is considered the power. This 3, maybe I should use different numbers. I'll make that a 4, okay? The 4 is the coefficient, okay? So we've always had those. X is the base and 3 is power, okay? Now I'm going to multiply this by 3x squared, okay? So here's what you do. The coefficients, you just multiply them together and you're going to get your 12. That's cool. But now, what are we going to do with the x's? Here's the problem that I see people do. What they'll do is they'll take the 3 and the 2 and they'll multiply them together. That's not what we do with the exponents. When we multiply things that have the same base, these are x's, what you do is you add the exponents. Just think about it as this. This is 4x times 3x. Well, altogether, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4 times 3 is 12, and you're going to end up with 5 x's at the end of it. So, the best example that I can give students that I think they really lock in on is if I were to do something like this. Let's just move over to this side real quick. If I did 3x squared plus 2x squared, that equals, and this is when we did like terms, right? Remember when we added like terms? So if they're the same and we're adding, we just add the coefficients and we copy. So when we add exponents, when we add them, we copy. But if we were to multiply 3x squared times 2x squared, let me make these thirds because the 2 will kind of make that not work. Now if I'm going to make these thirds, now I'm not adding, I'm multiplying, correct? So now the 3 times 2 is 6, and this is going to be x to the 6th power. Okay, so when you add, you copy. When you multiply, you add. And that's all we do. So let's do a few more. And then, of course, I've got all the worksheets that you can look at maxtutorials.com. Let's do this one. Let's put some negative signs in there. Negative 5x squared y to the third z times, let's go 2x to the 4 y z to the third. Okay, let me get rid of, well, I'll leave that right there. Okay, so now here's what we're going to do. Multiply your coefficients, so you're going to get negative 10. Now, you're going to have an xyz, because there's an xyz in the question, there's going to be an xyz in the answer. The question is, how many? I have 2 x's, I have 4 x's, I have 6 x's. Y, I have 3. Remember, if it's not written, that's assumed to be a 1. So you're going to add 1 more, and that's going to become a 4. And your z, I have 1 and 3 more. That's going to be z to the 4th, and this would be your answer when you multiply those. Now, 1 more, and then you can get off to the questions. What happens if you have negative exponents? What? Negative exponents? Yeah, you can't have negative exponents, and there's going to be a whole video on how we deal with negative exponents. But they are possible. So, let's go ahead and take a look. You don't need to watch me erase the board. Let me just click into it. All right, let's look at this one. The coefficients you just multiplied. What is a negative 7 times a negative 5? That's a positive 35. Now let's look at our x's. Okay, I have x to the negative 3 and x to the 7. We're adding them together. And if you remember when we worked on negative signs, signs are different. So you subtract them, keep the sign of the bigger number, which is positive. Okay? I'm going to make this one a negative 5 here, just so that I can show you something. Okay, so now let's go to the y's. Y to the 4, y to the negative 2. Okay, so one's positive, one's negative. So when you add, just like we do with negatives, that's going to become a positive 2. And my z, remember, that's a 1. You don't have to write it, but that's a 1. But a 1 and a negative 5, when you add that together, what do you get? A negative 4. Okay? And that's basically it. When you see multiplication and you see the exponents, now they have to be the same letter, right? Okay, so for example, if you have 2x squared times 5y to the 5th, your answer is going to be 2 times 5 is 10. The x has nobody to play with, so you leave them alone. And the y has nobody to play with, so you leave him alone. You don't make it to the 7th or anything like that. They have to be the same exponent, okay? So that should be enough to get you going on those worksheets. Start working on the worksheets, and I'll see you there.